Hi everyone, my name's Emma. I'm from AIE here in Canberra, and I just am really excited to have everyone here today. And we're going to be talking about virtual productions. So we've got some amazing guests on tonight who've been working in the worlds of virtual production. As most of you know, AIE announced earlier in this year that in 2022 we'll be starting our very own filmmaking course. So we're going to be starting that in our February next year. So as it draws closer and closer, we're really excited by all the technology, and we thought this would be a great opportunity to actually talk about it and talk with some people who've been working in the industry. So this live stream today will actually just be an introduction into virtual productions. So we'll be discussing how they're created, but we're not going to be diving into the little details. Our lovely guest speakers have been working in the world of virtual production, and we are really lucky to have them here tonight to explain the world of virtual production and where the industry might be going. Virtual productions are the future of filmmaking, and people trained in this area are becoming so highly sought after by companies. So AIE's goal is to fill the demand with some amazing graduates. We are so lucky to have Matt Barker from Heretic Foundation and Jack Condon from Epic Games. I'll let them introduce themselves in a sec in further detail, but I do encourage everyone tonight to add your questions in the chat. We're going to be popping them up on screen so Matt and Jack can answer them live. That's enough from me, so I will let Jess take it away.
Cool. Thanks, Emma. Thanks, Matt and Jack, for joining us this afternoon. So let's take it away. First question. So please tell us a little bit about yourself. Matt, do you want to jump in first?
Sure. So I'm a bit of a mixed bag. I've done a lot of different things. Starting out on about 15 years ago now, almost working on AAA games with Rockstar Games and Team Bondi here in Sydney. Working in game cinematics actually, which weirdly ties into virtual production these days. But been working in software, so training in different industries, teaching many different studios in effects software and up and coming new things. I worked with Intraware, where we got to do training for Foundry, and Eddie for Nuke, this awesome fluid plugin. I've done a lot of teaching. I've taught at AIE. I've gone on then to travel around the world teaching studios and things. I've worked with Jack there, whichever way he is. I've worked with Jack there on lots of cool little projects as a freelancer as well, doing all sorts of different things, 3D VFX generalist sort of work. And now I'm with Heretic Foundation, making movies. We're doing feature films, TV stuff. We're doing our own horror films, doing a lot of effects, sort of horror work, which is just awesome. Heaps of blood and guts and gore and stuff, and cool stories. Lots of weird stuff. And we're also doing virtual production for clients. So we're doing our first feature film right now. It's called Mercy Road. That's about all I can say about it. But I'll be talking about sort of some of the things we're doing with that, which Jack's been a huge help on as well. So I've done lots of different stuff. It's a real sort of scattered around, but yeah, had lots of good experiences.
And lots of knowledge. That sounds awesome.
Sure.
Nice job. And hand it over to you, Jack.
Yeah, so my background actually started with photography, kind of a studio photographer. So it's kind of gone full circle again to be around glassware again, and cinema's completely different. But I still feel very comfortable around all the lights and things like that. I came in from working in galleries to be interested in how we can use real time for fine arts, which eventually led to live installs and projection mapping and this whole world of live events, then eventually activations, and it keeps getting bigger and bigger. And I started working for a company called Story First Technology Second, which is an Australian company in Sydney, where Matt's right. We worked on many different projects together. My favorite being when Matt did all the rigging character work for a flying carpet that we made for a VR game. So, and so at S1T2, we kind of did a lot of diverse different work. And the way that we kind of use the term for the technicians that work in this space is a creative technologist, which is a term I'm going to come back to for virtual production, because I think it's really interesting the type of skills and the type of way of working within VP as a new space is very akin to the learn on demand kind of a bit of hardware, a bit of software, a bit of negotiation, bit of production kind of skill sets that you're going to need in VP. So that was kind of my background where I first got into it. Now I'm working at Epic and I'm doing a lot of virtual production work. I really like focusing on virtual production pipelines and workflows and sort of stage technician, which is something that I hope to go into a little bit later as well.
Yeah, awesome, exciting. So we've been saying this word virtual production a lot. I do see some people in the chat, I do recognize some of the names, so they might know what virtual production means, but I know a lot of people who will be tuning in tonight who would be asking, what the hell is virtual production? Who wants to try to explain this to everyone?
Nobody knows. Yeah,
It's a secret. It's a secret.
It's, I'll start out, Jack, and
Mate, you go.
And
Mate,
you can correct me if you want.
Yeah.
So it means something completely different to different people. It dates back to when they first started doing camera tricks and painting backgrounds, literal paints behind the wall, or in camera tricks. And it's all come full circle really in the end. But today, virtual production typically means in Camera Vfx, and that's done in a number of different ways. But the two big ones are green screen production, and there's LED production as well with the big LED walls. But I guess to answer it shorter, it's putting real-time graphics live in camera behind the set instead of doing it in post after. But I think Jack will have a fair bit to say about all the other things that are virtual production too, especially when we look at live events and, there's all sorts of things that could be called it. There's so much overlap as well.
My definition of that is virtual production is where digital and physical spaces kind of meet. And that's kind of like, it's so vague. But it meets with filmmaking. And I think that the focus right now is on filmmaking, partially because of where the world's at right now. As we start opening up, you've got to understand that entire fireworks shows for a long time have been done in pre-visualization, and entire live shows are all pre-visualized so we can curate that content. And it made sense for Game of Thrones to pre-visualize when they're trucks coming in and out and all these production values and how they were going to block out every single shot before they went into film to ultimately make their process more efficient. So it's all of these things. But I agree with you, Matt. Let's focus on the sexiest, which is that in-camera VFX. Yeah.
It's what's getting everyone interested in it, and everyone's trying to build their own solutions, and every studio's got something cool going. But Jess is right. There's a huge demand for it, especially with COVID added on top of that. It's very hard to find people.
Yeah, and it's not only for filmmakers. It's being used in a whole variety of different areas as well. Is that correct?
Totally. I would love to hire programmers at my film studio. Like I want a UE4 coder. There's or a few of them would be nice.
Is this a job ad?
Okay, give me a call.
I was just going to add to Matt's point. We are seeing this new role come up between a programmer and a creative kind of technologist who manages all the hardware and software and tooling and even tech art performance. It's kind of this it's a generalist role in a way, but it's focused on making sure that whole thing is going to run at the end of the day. Like, you are primarily responsible for that, and that's really exciting and is in high demand.
Yeah, no, definitely. And what studios do you know that are making films these days in using this technology or any other? Yeah. You up?
We've made 2 short films.
I think we've got some footage if we're able to bring it up at some point. Sorry.
Yeah, sure.
Well, that's this one.
We'll get there.
There
we go.
That's our VFX reel, so this is a bit generalist of a mixed bag. But yeah, we just finished Mask of the Evil Apparition, which is doing the festival circuit now. It was green screen and a bit more traditional approach, but we did some previous sort of virtual production stuff and a lot of R&D around that early on. This was like at the start of COVID with a real small team. It was me, Alex Proyas, and Rich Leroyd, and two others. Basically, it was a real small team. While we were working out tracking, camera tracking, real time. Already knew like UE4 environments and stuff. I've been doing them for years, but getting them working at frame rate in camera, all synced up, is a huge task, and everyone's learning it together. Like Mandalorian is probably the big answer to your question that everyone sort of knows about, who's looked into it. But and that's at ILM, of course. That a lot of that show is shot on LED walls. Not all of it is the big sort of thing. A lot of producers in the industry come away with, this was all done in virtual production, and it's not always the case.
Definitely. And we're finding like a lot of the times using this virtual production technology, it is helping the sets not everyone from the film crew, everyone has to get up and ship to location. You're able to do a lot of this filming in the middle of the city where everyone can get to easily. And I've heard it's also supporting the actors as well, being able to see the set live and helping them with their acting abilities as well.
I might add to that, Jess, because I absolutely agree with your points. But I think that where it gets really exciting is this concept of not just transport, and you're right, things are getting cheaper, and that's great, because if we have more money, we can iterate more, we can make better films. End of story, right? But I think one of the most exciting things is there's 2 really exciting things going on with the virtual production, the idea of final pixel through the camera, or close enough to it, is that you've got this communication layer between directors who are able to talk to, VFX kind of leads on set whilst principal photography is being filmed. And that's really exciting because there's this collaborative element that we've never had before, ever. I mean, I would say that we had it during Star Wars, the original Star Wars, where we were filming literal models of planets, and you could move around those models. Yeah, Charlie Chaplin's Modern World, with the screen plates. But, all of these things were once in camera, then they moved off camera, months, in post-production. And now we're bringing the director, the DOP, back into that process. But not just like before, with a whole team of really skilled people who have developed an eye, and these collaborations now are the first time that's ever happening. So that's really, really exciting. It's not just about getting the effects in, into that final pixel where the director has control, but it's about getting more voices into the mix as well.
That's the sort of thing that CG artists often don't think about is that's changed. Like they'll normally light on set, film it with a green screen, and then later on, like a month or 2 after, you'll be at a desk lighting a scene going, oh crap, we need a light here, we need a light here, just to match maybe a mistake they did on set. Whereas now, the doc can just yell at the UE4 guy, move that light, and they light it up and match the real lighting to match with the CG lighting, and so the work can look better, and be more iterative. Like it's really changing how everyone works together. I agree.
Yeah. I guess that leads on to one of my how has it changed the process from with all this new technology? Is there a lot more I guess obviously research and development going into this, but does it change the workflow at all?
Heaps. Flips it on its head. It's a good thing and a bad thing, because now you'd get all your footage, you'd have a certain amount of funding for the shoot, and then you'd have a certain amount of funding for the post, and now all the post funding you want before the shoot now. So the financials of it are difficult, and changing people's sort of workflow, because you really have to realize that in these films, they're like right before movie release, they're doing changes in the editing room and getting things changed. You know, change that building to a castle, to, you know, change that dragon around, all that sort of stuff. But now you have a lot of that you have to plan beforehand, which a lot of people having trouble getting on board with, or just committing to it. You have to commit a lot earlier.
But I think that these are really,
and all that sort of stuff. Yeah.
I think these are exciting challenges, Matt. I absolutely think that there's going to be a period of education and readjustment, but ultimately the promise that we can do way more pre-viz, be more organized, and get more shoots done, you know, and be more efficient there, but also being able to collaborate and change things in a much more live way makes it worth the jump. It's just different, right? Like, it is a different process, and we need to be able to make those calls. Up front.
I guess what I'm saying is that that education has to happen at every level. It's not just the artist doing it. It's not just the director. It's a huge change, but it's happened quickly. But it's going to be great.
And I guess what type of key skills, like you're talking about, people having to learn this new technology, what type of skills are required in this career that involves in this new tech?
Well, for the art side, it's real-time game engines and pipelines that connect those to post pipelines. But it's also understanding real-time camera tracking. So people who might learn Nuke or Synthesize or some of those tracking programs now might learn on-set live camera tracking, because we need to sync for people who don't know what the hell we're talking about. You need to sync the game camera to the real life camera, so it moves at exactly the same time. And then people's feet stand on the ground, and people don't walk through walls, hopefully, and all that sort of stuff. But what skills on the tech side do you reckon, Jack?
I think that, like, within the art world, one of the really important skills, if you're currently not working with game engines, is that the good news is that I think a lot of your skills in terms of the core artistic elements are very transferable. But Matt's right, you are going to need to learn about game engines, and you are going to need to learn about, you know, ideally how your frame goes from one point to the other at a much deeper level, because, you know, ultimately we need to be able to render these frames at 33.3 milliseconds, say, you know, like, in order to achieve the camera sync. Right? So there is an understanding of this kind of new thing of optimization, but really what this does is it creates a new role specifically around, or a new responsibility around, technical artists. And a technical artist, if you haven't heard that term before, is essentially an artist that has started to invest in some of these technical skills, such as developing shaders, or, you know, their work's threefold. They work on optimizing pipelines to make them faster, or, you know, require less people. They work on making sure content can run at a certain frame rate, and they make sure that they can achieve very beautiful VFX. So they're both in charge of making sure things run and things look beautiful, right? It's an interesting place. And I think that the industry is going to need a lot of these people to shoot IC VFX, because these screens are huge, and we have end display, which is a core technology to distribute that at Unreal. But you still need to, you know, you're still rendering very high resolution imagery. So then the other skill is a stage technician, and this person is your Arduino hacker. They're maybe, you know, they're kind of a little bit curious about all hardware. They can program any language maybe. They're very adaptable. They're very, you know, on the fly, ideally. And they don't need to be this person either, but I'm just trying to give you an archetype. And they're going to be across the Brompton pixel processors. They're going to be across, you know, the LED panels. They're going to be across all of the hardware elements that go into a stage, all the way down to launching Unreal, synchronizing it up, and telling, you know, they're essentially a technical director across the full technical pipeline that is part of that shooting process. When a director says, okay, roll, you know, you're saying, okay, we're launching tape recorder, which tracks our camera angles, and they're managing that pipeline all the way through to make sure that that everything's running smoothly and excitingly. And the biggest thing here is actually not the technology. You get the technology pretty quick, but you'll get some strange requests on site. I'm sure Matt can attest to in terms of having to do stuff quickly. And this is where pipeline and workflow really all come together when you do need to change that house to a castle, the example Matt gave before.
Amazing. All this technology that we're talking about and what we're showing on screen. So this video here is actually at our Canberra campus. We're just doing a showcase that was involved with AIE, Film Plus, and Silver Sun as well. So that was back in May when we released the new course. But all this technology, it looks expensive. Is this just for large studios, or can indies and smaller studios use this as well?
I've worked on both sides of it. Before I started with Heretic, I was with Intraware. We were doing a lot of the list of stuff Jack went through before. I was working with Rowe LED panels and Brompton processors and all that sort of jazz. And yes, all of that costs an arm and a leg. But like a lot of things in the big scale world, it's all rentable. So it's all stuff you can just rent like you would a camera for a shoot. And there's also like companies that do the LED walls for you, and you turn up with the UE4 know-how, and yeah, there's lots of those sort of places that are emerging. TDC is a great one in Sydney. To give those guys a shout out. They're an awesome group of people we've been working with. But there's lots of cool people popping up. But indies, we started with a really low budget Heretic. My boss is like, what can we get with just Vive trackers? There's little black things, yay big, that come with your VR, the Pro set, and you can actually track a camera with them. They can be problematic, but they are on an indie budget. There's generally more setup and things, but the amount of cool things I see online, people doing with that, not just syncing a camera. Like some people build mocap suits out of things with Vive trackers stuck all over them and stuff. There's some good communities where you can see heaps of indie people doing good stuff. The UE for virtual production Facebook group is easily the best resource out there. And there's a Discord attached to that for the people who don't like Facebook. There's heaps of cool indie stuff going on. Film clips, all sorts of good stuff. Yeah.
Jack, did you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I just wanted to echo, I think there is a misconception that, because we've seen The Mandalorian, how successful it is and how believable it works, and you're like, wow. So I think it's totally a misconception that we're only seeing these examples. I think that you get advantages when you start going to a large-scale volume, but you're able to use this technology all the way down from previs just using a virtual reality headset all the way to a large volume. You're going to see huge benefits in your pipeline.
People use their TV with like figurines and stuff. Yep. Do some awesome.
Absolutely. I actually, I've got a project where I'm doing that at the moment with some of my dungeon, my little minis that I've got. Like it's great fun for technical testing as well. But the point is that the technology does scale, because at the end, like, it's really more about the people and the workflows that are going to be the limitations. And display can scale for you. You're going to projection mapping for an opera or a live show. You're going for a LED for a TVC. You're going for there's always going to be an option for you where you're going to use this technology. So it's going to impact you in some way or another.
Yeah, that's awesome. Good answer. I think we had a question from the audience.
Oh. Hello. I thought I'd pop in with a question here. So what kind of roles do you see being most crucial and required in virtual productions? You mentioned green screen, but also animation work. So what are the kind of roles that we're going to be starting to see and students should start looking forward to?
I think I mentioned the stage technician before and sort of the technical artist to main two, but Matt, you've probably got a bigger grasp of.
Yeah. So all of the sort of core 3D generalist sort of skills are definitely applicable. You know, if you can make nice environments, that's in terms of the art side of things. If 3D art, the environment arts is the most necessary. But it all depends on the projects you're after, but they're typically wanting, you know, realistic looking environments and in real time. So if you were in like a film course, for example, and you would want to look into how to optimize your high-res film content for game engines, and the other way around, I guess, if you were doing a purely game course, you'd want to do some cinematography stuff, learn some camera lensing, cinematography, composition, things like that. They're not specific roles, though, sorry, but I think being pigeonholed as just an animator or just a texture artist isn't going to lead itself towards virtual production. You have to wear many hats. That's in general these days, anyway, really.
Great advice.
I think we're looking for, like, I think that the most necessary people here are T-shaped people, to pull from Google's kind of expression there, where, like, you know, you might be a core C++ developer who can dive in and build these tools on set to make things more efficient, but you still are going to need to be able to change a camera lens potentially for testing and be able to set up a shot and pre-program that in sequencer so you can start doing previs. You know, so the diversity of skill there is huge, and that's also what makes it so exciting.
Yeah, definitely.
We've got tons of juniors that have been in working with us, and some full time now as well. So it's definitely not something you can only do after 10 years experience. Like, you know, there's
I think that's the good answer.
Of
don't get caught up. Yeah, I think don't get caught up that it's like this whole like new thing, and I need to learn all this stuff. You can build up to it, and you don't have to have the exact skills right away.
Not at all. Like just with UE4, you know, a copy of Blender and the sequencer inside of UE4, you can make your own little short film completely free with, you know, state of the art stuff. Really,
Awesome. No, that was good. Good question. Keep them coming if you're watching along. If you have any more questions, let's talk about pros and cons. Virtual production. Okay. Anyone? Let's go with some pros first.
The pros. Pros first.
Yeah.
Well, when you shoot people, the lighting looks great. That's the number one thing. The number one reason for LEDs, and the light interaction on things. The number one best thing to use VP for at the moment, which is pretty much just the way you do it now, is car shots. You're shooting people talking in a car. You do that on a volume now. It's just how you do it. It's cheaper, safer. It looks way better, and the post work is way easier. So you've got these big LED walls over it, and all the reflections of the environment are coming onto the glass, bonnet of the car, the people, everything like that. You can time, and we may or may not be doing this now, but we're timing like street lights on a person's face to you know, things on the set that are matching up and things like that. The light interaction is great. Normally on a green screen, you just get this flat, horrible. You know, it can be really difficult to make it look real. It's why heaps of green screens look super duper fake. It's quite hard to make the characters sit in there. So, in my opinion, the lighting is the number one pro.
I agree with you, Matt.
You got any pros,
with the two major things, right, being like final pixel in camera, so you've got that. Depending on the speed that you're shooting on, that can be powerful. But the number one thing is still lighting, because you know you have different variations of this where you shoot green screen where your camera sees, and then you just keep your out of frustum lighting, so that way you don't get green spill and you get the full lighting environments. Also changeover, right? Like, so if you're shooting in this studio, we were talking, Jess, you brought up changeover being, okay, so we go to this location, get the trucks there. What's the deployment plan? Okay, what time's lunch? Blah, blah, blah. All of these logistics. Well, now we've got changeovers where gaffers can even, say, work faster in a full volume, where all of our lights are completely virtualized, except maybe for some hard lights around, because LEDs generally give off a softer light. But you can actually map a studio. If you're used to working in a studio, you can map your lights to be virtual and just kind of go over your outer frustum with these big kind of things we call light cards, for instance. And what that lets us do is actually shoot in a way that we can actually have virtual lighting. And what does virtual lighting do? Well, it means less tripods, less setup, faster iteration. So now you're not just talking getting rid of driving a car to a site and blah, blah, blah. You're actually talking about making creative changes rapidly. And that's kind of the most amazing thing here, is that we are able to make these creative changes rapidly. And where a volume and ICVFX works best is where you're really utilizing that pipeline to ensure that your final pixel is exactly like all the happy accidents. And I think that that's why people enjoy working with it. I think, ultimately, yeah, it's going to be cheaper for a long run. Already, Sydney travel is significantly better, as you said. So it's going to allow us to do more creative things. But I think the best thing is that it's opening up new things, new pipelines, new ways of thinking and building films. And that's what's exciting.
Yeah. One of the really things we got a kick out of for pros as well, sorry, Jess, is we're storyboarding live with the director now at my studio. So I work right next to Alex, and he'll get me to build a bit overbuild, so I'll build like more of the forest that we need, or we'll build it up more like we do a game level, really. And then broad strokes though, fairly rough, but then he'll fly around, and we've got different lenses we can throw on. We're flying around doing, in some cases, animated storyboards or animatics at the start of the movie with the set we're going to be using on set. So we're seeing problems earlier on with matching lighting and things, like Jack was mentioning before. We've got a poor man's setup of that, where we can match the UE4 stuff with presets, where we have maps in UE4 and a button on an iPad, and all the skylights and things go into place, and it's pretty cool. But they get really fancy when we sync it up fully. Yeah.
Awesome. Any cons that you have found working with Birch production?
Lots. Don't want to scare anyone off.
Yeah.
But there's lots of problems with it. There's lots of things you can do wrong. But it's all a learning experience. Like one of the big problems with LED is the Moyer effect. So you see the actual grids. Like when you look at a TV up too close, you can see the little lines, and if you shoot a camera too close to it and it's too in focus, you can actually see them. And nuke and flame and stuff can do some amazing stuff, but that's one of the things that nothing's really great at removing. And at the moment, there's a lot of people having to get tracked cameras on set, or post track them and go over the top of the LED work. So that can be quite problematic, but easily avoidable if you move back. If you move back from the wall and plan your shots more, and there's lots of ways around that one. The big con I see is what I touched on before, is convincing people to invest up front and rehearse these shots enough and plan and move a good chunk of the post budget to the front to allow you to prepare enough for it. That's a challenge, and at the moment a con, but as the education gets better, that will more and more go away. Any cons, Jack?
Yeah. I think the general understanding is the major issue, and I think that like AIE's got a course coming up. It's exciting, right? Unreal is currently
Oh, yeah.
publishing our own technical experiments that you can download for free. You can download the entire project file and see how we set up our stage and just have a good look at that. And so we're seeing all these resources come out now, and you can dive into it today. You can go to the Unreal Learn tab and download that project file. You can go to our YouTube and watch that video content. And you can start to get a better understanding. But we're still going to see a lag here. It was like everything. When green screen was introduced to the world, it didn't pick up right away. We had to work out how to do it and where to use it as well, and where not to use it, and all these kind of things. Mm-hmm. And I think it is a con right now in terms of where we're at. But as Matt said, it's going to be pushed into a pro very, very soon. It's just we all have a responsibility to get it there. And I don't just mean us three, but everyone on the stream as well.
No, that was a good answer. Good answers. Like obviously it's still early days for this technology. We're at the beginning of it, and there's only now a lot more accessible training programs and stuff for everyone to now jump onto it, especially like the virtual production course starting next year at AIE. Super excited about that. Where do you think we'll be in maybe 5 years and 10 years with this technology? Maybe just go with 5 years.
Oh, it's going to be awesome. Be the 6090 graphics card. It's going to be fantastic.
I think you can see from Epic's engagement that we're very serious in this space, and what you're seeing is a democratization of toolsets in general. And this is what makes me exciting. I've been talking about this technical artists and et cetera, but the barrier of entry should be zero in order to mean that you can produce the creative outcomes you want. And that's, everything, nothing's ever zero. Anything worth doing requires effort, right? But the thing is that as we go on, as we work out how to do this, as we progress, things are going to flow easier. They're going to flow faster, and we're going to end up with better films. And I think that, ultimately, what's the answer? We are going to have better graphics cards, which is going to be great. But we're going to have better films. And that's going to be the most exciting thing. Ultimately, the tooling will grow with the needs of industry, and it will become a very exciting space.
No, that's awesome. And also not just film, but there's also like TVC and the short films world. And then there's music videos being created with it. And then also immersive TV sets as well. I know BBC Sports, they were live from Tokyo.
They've been doing it long before film industry have.
Yeah.
There's no such thing as a game show set. They're all like a podium and a fake audience, and all the rest is fake. They do some great stuff.
Yeah, so I'm this is what we're seeing now. I can't wait to see what the graphics card can produce in 5 years' time.
It's not just the raw power though. It's all the AI stuff happening as well, and being able to just. Everyone's learned about Zoom over COVID, except me. My camera's broken. But they do the auto green screen backgrounds. That's obviously the consumer dodgy version of it, but that stuff's going to get better and better. There's some amazing stuff doing automatic rotoscoping. The Foundry, heaps of other places doing some amazing stuff there. I've heard Brompton, the LED panel people. I've almost cracked away. Or they may already be there, Jack. But you can film at double the frame rate and put green screen and the LED wall in the same footage. So you just process the footage later and get the best of both worlds. Is that real yet?
And then that's totally real, and we've got a lot of fun incentives. The primarily reason here is that you need to sync everything up with Genlock, but you can sneak frames in there because LEDs do have a certain refresh rate. And so Brompton have managed to do that with multi-camera, and then every processor has their kind of version of this. There's also the Ghost Frame initiative where we can hide things from the human eye, because it moves so fast. You flash a different color and it becomes invisible.
And
that's great for that's awesome for broadcast, right? Because now you can put cues on screen to read from, like someone's name if you forgot it, or something like this. Whatever you might need to do, or even just walk over here because there's now a rocket ship landing next to you, right? So all of these things are really exciting. I what makes me excited as someone who works with content is just it's sometimes the little things that make my life 5 minutes faster here, or the big stuff. And it's like, I think if we look back to Unreal Engine 3, we look at the material graph, right? So back before this material graph in UE3, you had to know HLSL to program a shader. So a shader describes how an object looks in your scene, right? And it's writing that code is challenging, it's difficult. But
I'm so nerdy and I hate that stuff.
Yeah, totally. And so when we developed this all those years ago, it was kind of like the implications of it were not technical. It's very smart. Don't get me wrong, it's very smart, smarter than anything I've certainly done. So credit there. But really, its value is its UX gift to the world in terms of it allowed artists to start iterating and building things out that they couldn't previously do before. And I'm using this, of course, as a way of talking about how the tools will develop and we will see fundamental tools come in that changes everyone's access to stuff and ultimately launches the creativity off the planet. And that's kind of what I'm most excited for. And those little UX changes that save me 5 minutes, obviously. They're good.
Nice.
So moving into like what we see for the future, what would you also see for just Australia right now? And do we support this infrastructure and the change within this technology?
They're starting to here in Australia. We're definitely behind Hollywood, that's for sure. Like all the big studios over there have been doing it for a couple of years now, and here people are just starting to get into it. From the world I see anyway, Jack, you're probably seeing the other places more than me, but we're definitely lagging behind here. But it's getting more attention and funding and things slowly, from what I see. But yeah, Jack can probably add something better.
I don't think it hurts to be late. Like, we're all learning this together in a very real way. Matt, I like what you've said is completely true, but you can kind of go through and start going through your own R&D with tool sets that have been worked out by these big studios and by us. And entering the world now is very different from entering the world 2 years ago. 4.27, for instance, the Unreal version, is the first release of N-Display 1.0, the stable kind of non-experimental release. So you're coming in now on much firmer, safer ground, and I think that's really instrumental in being able to move this move this forward faster. Not to say there haven't been great productions that haven't made it with these tools, but it's the whole world's moving forward, and even if you haven't been part of that journey, you have actually been part of it. I think that's my point here.
Yeah, no, that's good. Now, definitely, there's a lot
even
of
just in the last few months. Like, I can tell on so many Netflix shows that's a volume, and like last year was not the case. It was Star Wars.
Oh, definitely, yeah, definitely hearing a lot of like other studios opening up in Australia and then using this technology. And like in Melbourne, we've created a volume space there. Sydney with like Thor: Love and Thunder. So yeah, it's definitely popping up everywhere. Super excited about that. We are slowly running out of time here. I'll ask my last question, and then I think we've got a question or two from the audience.
Okay.
For anyone going into this industry, not in virtual production, but also in either games and films, do you have any words of wisdom or advice?
It's really fun. Do it. I've been doing it for ages. Words of advice. Although it's really fun, it is hard work. You're gonna have to practice a lot. Research a lot of things. Be good at taking feedback. And yeah, there's so much out there. There's so much out there accessible now, and so many cool cool places and people to learn from that, you know, like Jack was saying, the barriers are dropping. So that didn't answer your question at all. Yeah.
No, that's good. No, that's good. Yeah. It's fun and you should do it. I think that's good words of wisdom.
Yeah, that's what's kept me doing it for so long. I always tinker with stuff outside of work as well. It's really good.
Yeah, I think be curious. I know it sounds generic, but that's kind of the industry is always changing, and there's too much to just absorb all of it. And even after a long time, you know, maybe not, but you could just focus on Unreal Engine, let's just say, as Matt was saying, and build a small production, build a shoot, and get accustomed to what that looks like. And even, you know, these days, the way I go to a volume to test things out is I build a virtual volume and a virtual set that's shooting a virtual environment. So it's like this metaverse like environment, you know, like, and I'm able to test things out that way. And, you know, like,
Yes.
So I think the advice is just get involved in some way and start up a project and, you know, and start learning.
Yeah. There's no
And you'll never
excuses
stop.
now. So much things are free, and it's just, just do it. Just do it.
Just that. No, that's awesome. I think we had a question or maybe two from the audience.
We've got one here. How should film producers make decisions to use virtual productions technology on their productions? Should they shoot every shot on an LED volume or scrap outdoor shooting?
I would say no. Don't scrap outdoor shooting. There's one of the big things that's super hard to get inside a green screen or an LED volume is nice outdoor lighting. You know, there's big expensive lights still don't look like the sun a lot of the time. So definitely don't do. You never decide to do a film and go, we're going to do all of this way. This is what I meant about the planning and the rehearsal for a production. Part of that planning is realizing when it's not going to work, and maybe filming that the traditional way. That you'll break up your film into different parts. You know, a lot of the ones we've done with LED, we've had the green screen set up over the other side of the other side of the room. You know, multiple cars for different things. You do it the easiest way. It's going to get you the better quality.
I think that like looking at the word VP, we said it's so much more. It's also previs and all these kind of pipelines, and you can start adapting to a VP pipeline in general and have some of your shots in a volume, but still benefit from planning your outdoor shots and working out the shots. You know, I can go now with my my phone. And scan a space, like a low quality LiDAR scan in something like 5 minutes. And for previs, it's all I need. And I can start setting up my lights, my cameras, my shots, my actors. I can add in a sequencer. I can do a previs animation. I can knock that out with like my basic mocap stuff in 10 minutes and have something to show a director and be like, this is it. Like, is this good? And so, you know, like when we talk about VP, I think you can start using it now, absolutely, because you can always be more organized and you can always make better creative decisions early, you know, fail faster. And I think that's what VP is going to let you do. Where do you use a volume? Where do you use a green screen? Where it's appropriate? Do you need to travel often? Do you need to, you know, do like, there are so many reasons. It depends on the shoot. So it really is just another tool in your arsenal. But the philosophy around virtual production, you know, around where to use it, you know, there's a lot of things you can start taking advantage of now.
Awesome. Thank you.
Good answer. I think that's all the questions that we have. Yeah. So we'll wrap it up there. It's been a really cool, almost an hour there. Thank you so much, Jack and Matt, for joining us and giving us some real words of wisdom and hopefully you guys out there understand virtual production a little bit more, and maybe we'll see you in the near future at AIE or within the industry.
Sure.
Do get in contact. We'd love to hear information about virtual production, where it's going, and all that sort of stuff. I guess just before we leave, we'll quickly just show you our website. We do have a whole bunch of other cool events coming up. So if you want to know more about AIE and virtual production, we do have an open day November 20th. So you can register just on our website. So yeah, we'll be talking a bit more about virtual production, and there'll be some opportunities in the near future as we set up the virtual production space as well, which we're super excited about. We also do a whole range of live streams. So if you enjoy tonight's live stream, we do one almost every fortnight or so. So on our workshop page on our website, we have a whole bunch of our amazing alumni who we've spoken to about their journey since AIE. We also speak to our current teachers and see what they've been doing in their career since before AIE. And we also talk to industry and current students as well. So you can learn a bit more about AIE and where our graduates go off to. And if you are looking to apply and want more information about virtual production course at AIE, we have the virtual production page on our website. So there's all the information that you'll know, but do get in contact if you have any further questions. Yeah, I think that's a wrap from us, but thank you so much, Matt and Jack, for joining us. Really appreciate your time tonight.
Awesome.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for coming.